welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south, in the land of the free, and the home of the brave, on a beautiful September the 29th, 2020. Rondo Deporte, bonjour, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, it's ecstatic for us down here. You know, I was listening to Stormy Daniels last night, and she spent 4 minutes with the president, and she made $130,000. The American public has spent 4 years with him, and they've gotten $1,500. So
Yeah.
she guessed that it's the American public who really got screwed in the end.
Yeah, it's nice being...
But I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, our doctors, our first responders for the marvelous job they do in taking care of everyone.
Yeah, sometimes, Big C, it's nice being screwed. It's all fair, level war. What to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars also all around the world. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Big C, you ever do anything that makes you go, man, it's nice to pause, Big C. It's all fair, love, and war, but I'll never pause on the Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help, Big C. Why is that so important to you?
Well, every time I walk to the top of my stairs in my house, Charlton, I got to take a pause. The thinking about our veterans every day in America is very important.
Yeah.
You know, we lose some 2 dozen a day to suicide, which is a horrific number.
Yeah.
But we're also losing dozens of veterans a day to this coronavirus pandemic. We give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, for our veterans as well as our American citizens, because it affects every walk of life. We think our veterans being mentally and physically destitute in this country and not having a place to turn, and many of them have turned to suicide, unfortunately. We have to give them more consideration as a federal government and as just as a society in America, because they made the ultimate sacrifice on many occasions, and many have come back perilled from their battle scars in the military service. So giving out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, to all Americans is an American service that we all must be involved in.
Yeah, and I love giving out Big C, 800-273-8255, 800-273-8255, or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you really can get people some help. Also, very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants and the Say Hey Kids. They'll have to wait for next year to get into the playoffs. When you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country to put people back to work. You can put your property listings on TV just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships do it. And yes, sports teams are doing it too. Watch TV and real estate work for you. That's 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com, and you can get some help. Big C, I remember I used to listen to my grandparents, and my parents would talk, and they always tell the kids to go outside or, go to your room. But my brothers and I, we would oftentimes sneak around so we could hear, grown folks talking. And I learned what a double entendre was. I would hear my grandparents say sometimes they got screwed, and they got screwed really bad. And sometimes they got screwed. It's a good thing and a bad thing. You ever been screwed, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, not like the president has done the United States with paying $1,500 in taxes the first 2 years in office.
What a shame.
You think about when you look at line 63 of your income tax, Charlton, and what the average American pay. I know at one point, Charlton, I was hit with a $352,000 tax bill. I am nowhere near wealthy like the president.
Yeah.
But when I'm hit with a $352,000 tax bill, Charlton, and I'm hearing the president refusing to pay taxes, we can't even write off our homes anymore. Think about the average American who can no longer write off their home because what the president has done tax-wise to them.
Yeah, he gave that money to his friends. So when people say they've been screwed, you got to understand Donald Trump's been screwing people his whole life, double entendre included, Big C. If you don't want to get screwed, you got to make sure you vote. I'm so serious. Register to vote. And some people are not registered to vote. They think they're going to wait till November 3rd. Make sure you're registered because they're already trying shenanigans, so you can't register. Text the word VOTE to 26797. That's VOTE 26797. Tell them all your friends. Tell them all. Tell everybody. Get everybody to vote. Tell them Big C and the NFL said vote, especially in the swing states. That's so important. Big C, I know a lot of people, they just want to know who won a game. And I've always believed that as much as we have a hero worship of our athletes and we ogle over guys who are big, strong, and fast, there's nothing wrong with that. But we really got to get our young people to understand that voting is more important than watching the game, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they're on that cellular device in their hand most of the day.
Yeah.
And they use it for the wrong things other than understanding what's going to happen in their lives over the next 10 years. They're more interested in the games that they can play and the scores that they can see on their cellular devices. I mean, but this is where a parent's responsibility coming in. The guidance of a parent is so important when it comes to the maturation of their children.
Very well said. And as my grandparents say, you don't want to get screwed by people. Sometimes people will just screw you, Big C. It is a double entendre. But you don't want to get screwed in a bad way. The presidential debate tonight, Big C, is going on right now as we speak. It's the first of three before the November 3rd election, 35 days away. Joe Biden and President Obama brought America out of a recession with honest dealing, solving COVID-19. We need that. Donald Trump, he does not pay his taxes, as you mentioned earlier. And COVID-19 is spread all over this country because Donald Trump lied. He lied to you. Imagine if a doctor lied and he lost over 200,000 patients because he lied. And they still don't have a way to deal with COVID-19 other than trying to end health care. So, Big C, I want to ask your thoughts on the debate tonight. I know it's happening as we're speaking. I want to get Big C's thoughts on what you think we're going to see on both sides, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I see your buddy Donald Trump trying to attack Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden. That's not the issue. Hunter Biden is not the issue of the presidential race because his kids are as crooked as any kid's ever been in America.
Yeah.
This should be Donald Trump addressing how he's going to help America fix itself, how he's going to attack the COVID-19 and why he let it go so rampant in this country. We have 4% of the population of the world, yet we have 20% of the deaths from COVID-19.
Wow.
And there's no end in sight. Well, how is he going to fix criminal justice? Why is he trying to abolish the Affordable Care Act when you have 100 million Americans without health insurance?
Wow.
You need to talk about the issues of the people, not to make family attacks, because you're talking about one person. And if you can divert all that interest to one person versus 100 million people, Charlton, then you're not caring about the masses of America.
You know what's interesting, Big C? They were doing some polling, and they're saying among the uneducated, the people that don't like to read, that they're saying that Potus has a slight lead with a lot of dumb guys. And it was kind of chilling when Dr. Fauci came out and he said that Fox News spreads a lot of falsehoods and it puts people's lives in danger. And it's a shame. But media is supposed to be just the carrier of the news, not the maker of it. And I really appreciate when people tell the truth about that. It's a matter of just decency. Biden has a long record of at least being a decent person. Him helping fix the economy. It was a great economy when President Obama and Joe Biden left office, and Donald Trump took a lot of credit for that. Like he lied about how much money he's made. Over $400 million in loans that has to be brought up, and I know it will be brought up tonight, but how does Trump pretzel out of how he has $400 million in loans, but he only pays $750 in taxes, and he won't tell people where the money came from, Russia, Saudi Arabia? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, he's going to come out and say that's his private life, Charlton, and that's not up to public scrutiny. But it is up to public scrutiny, Charlton, because you got to know, just like when you go in and ask for a loan from a bank, and they ask you about your background, and you want to tell them that's your private life, is not up for financial scrutiny. I mean, as the president of the United States, you need to be not just the commander-in-chief, but the leader in ethics also, which he does not have. And that's the problem that you look at when you talk about those uneducated people. They don't even know what the word ethics means, Charlton, nor does Donald Trump. Because he's been a Shylark his entire life. And he's not going to in that. You know, it seems like the major reason he wanted to become president of the United States because he owes all this money to people. And now he has Secret Service protection so that nobody can put a hit on him.
It's a truism. It's just real talk. Well, today's show is you got to know when you're being screwed. And it's a double entendre, but you really got to know the difference between when you're being screwed and when you're really being screwed, if that makes sense to you. So we'll see what happens in the debate. I want to say a team that did not get screwed, unless you ask their goalies, congratulations in the defending. Actually, I want to say congratulations to Lord Stanley's Cup, the new champions, the Tampa Bay Lightning. They win with the game over the Dallas Stars, Big C. I feel like it was anticlimactic. Did the Dallas Stars think they got screwed? Of course they thought they got screwed, Big C. It was anticlimactic because we don't have the fans and the loud noises that we normally hear in a hockey game. But congratulations to Tampa Bay Lightning, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is the first championship since the pandemic has started. And the Tampa Bay Lightning, when you think about what they did, Charlton, they did something that only the Virginia Cavaliers did 3 years ago. When the Virginia Cavaliers in college basketball were the number one ranked team in the country, and they were knocked out in the first round by a bottom seed. That was the first time in college basketball history that had happened. But the next year, Charlton, they came back and won the NCAA title in men's basketball. The same thing happened to the Tampa Bay Lightning last year, Charlton. They were the number one seed in the NHL, and yet they lost to the bottom seed in the first round of the tournament and were knocked out. This year they came back, Charlton, with a purpose. They were the number one seed once again, and they were not to be thwarted in this opportunity for Lord Stanley's Cup. And they knocked off the Tampa Bay Lightning in six, or the Dallas Stars in 6 games. So great chaos to the Tampa Bay Lightning for coming back and redeeming itself a year later after being number one, getting knocked off, but coming back being number one and finishing it off.
And when lightning strikes, everybody understands how lightning strikes hard. Braden Point scored his playoff best 14th goal, and the Lightning beat the Dallas Stars 2-0 in Game 6 Monday night to finish off the most unusual NHL postseason in history. And I'm telling you, it was done in a quarantine pandemic. They've been in the bubble for about 80 days, Big C, but it's all fair and love and war. Congratulations to them good old boys down in Tampa. May lightning not strike you. You'll get screwed if lightning strikes you, if that makes any sense to you. But I really want to wish them congratulations on hoisting Lloyd Stanley Cup. Big C, I'm going to tell you, I think you kind of been on a roll lately. I was telling you how Lamar Jackson is going to show the football universe how great of a quarterback he is, and he is. He's a young man. He really hasn't played more than 2 complete seasons. And when you think about it, he hasn't completed two complete seasons yet, because he came in when Flacco got injured, and then he had all of last year. So he really has a lot to learn. But the only bad thing about Jackson is that Patrick Mahomes, as he says, has been his kryptonite. He was being honest, and people saying they don't want to hear guys be honest. Congratulations, Patrick Mahomes, and the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. You called it, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you guys get so enamored with video games. Football is real. It's played on the field. And it's a game of consistency. It's a game of capitalizing on opportunity. And I told you before the game, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. It doesn't make any difference what somebody does in one season going out and winning an MVP, or somebody starting out the season lightning hot. This guy is consistent about what he does. And he went out and he dares opposing defenses to come at me. He's happy when you're blitzing, because that means you got less people on the back end. And the plays that he can make in a football game is so dynamic. He can make plays with his arms. He can make plays with his legs.
Yeah.
You talk about the multifaceted, most dynamic football player to ever live. That's Patrick Mahomes, not Lamar Jackson, because he blew people away with running the ball. We've seen that many times before, but no running quarterback has ever won a championship.
Yeah.
You got to be able to be dynamic with your arm, and that's what Patrick Mahomes is. The Kansas City Chiefs knew that the Ravens were a one-dimensional team to run the ball. Regardless of numbers that Lamar Jackson has had up, they wanted them to run the ball because they knew they could defend the pass.
Yeah.
You know, that's the weak link of their offense. And so when you shut that down, just like when they shut down the 49ers in the Super Bowl, who everybody said, oh, they're just going to run all over the Chiefs defense.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, nobody's run over in 3 consecutive games. They're not going to start doing it.
Yeah.
We're going to make the quarterback beat us. And you have to also understand that the Baltimore Ravens, in 5 games that Lamar Jackson has been playing quarterback, and they've been trailing in the fourth quarter, they've never come back and won a game. So until Lamar Jackson can prove that he can win a game trailing in the fourth quarter, because their offense is not set up for that,
yeah,
he's going to be stuck in this quandary, this quagmire. But that's the moniker of the Kansas City Chiefs. Please, let us be trailing.
Yeah, let it be trailing. Jackson completed 15 to 28 passes, 97 yards, ran for 83 yards, and 30 of those was on his first, on the one carry during the Ravens' opening possession. The great Patrick Mahomes, he's earning that $500 million. Donald Trump got his by some friends that do illegal activity. Mahomes is going to earn his through a contract, 31 of 42, 385 yards, and he averaged 6.5 yards on four rushing attempts. That means that, but I want to defend Baltimore for just one moment. There was a time when Peyton Manning and the Indianapolis Colts, they had no way to figure out how to beat the New England Patriots, Big C, and they finally figured it out. And he went on to have, obviously, a Hall of Fame career. And I don't see Baltimore being much different. They just don't pass the ball that well, even though they run it because it's been working for them. Anything they can do to get better is just study what Kansas City is doing and wait until Eric Bieniemy gets a head coaching job somewhere. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, no, there's no way to study what Kansas City is doing. All you can do is sit back and marvel at Patrick Mahomes, Charlton. This guy is the most dynamic quarterback we've ever seen in the history of the NFL. What Peyton Manning was doing along with Tom Brady, these were similarities in styles of playing quarterback.
Yeah.
There's nobody that can emulate what Patrick Mahomes does when he's playing quarterback in the NFL. You're talking about comparing the two. These guys don't play against each other.
Yeah.
They play against each other's defense. So they're not ever seeing each other on the field. So to sit there and try to compare him to say, okay, what can he do that Mahomes does?
Yep.
Nothing. Because no quarterback in the NFL, and I don't care what you have statistically, can compare to what Patrick Mahomes does. This guy throws underhand passes.
Yeah.
He throws passes on the dime, rolling to his left. No other quarterback is doing that. He pulls it down, runs it into the end zone for a touchdown.
Yeah.
And he has separation speed. And when you have a track team, his wide receiver group is a 440 relay team.
Yeah.
And so when they put all 4 of them out there, you're talking about putting stress on a defense. No other team in the NFL can do that. Maybe the closest is the Dallas Cowboys offensively,
yeah,
but they have no defense.
Yeah, it's all fair and love and war. When I was watching the game last night, I was watching it as I was eating the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger. It tastes ooyah good. You get it with exotic meats. You can only get it at participating restaurants. Make sure you ask for the Big C burger. It's on private menus. Big C, would you believe? Congratulations, Kansas City, 34-20 over the Baltimore Ravens. But, they seem to be used to beating those guys. The Tennessee Titans football team, they had players test positive for COVID-19 after playing the Minnesota Vikings. So you have the Tennessee Titans and the Minnesota Vikings. They've closed facilities for safety reasons. Are you surprised, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this was inevitable that the NFL was going to come down with a COVID-19 breakout, just like Major League Baseball did when it first started.
Yep.
And I think in the first month that they had some 20 games that were canceled or rescheduled in Major League Baseball in the first month of the season. This was no way going to be avoided by the NFL. You got 60 players walking out of the locker room going 60 different directions, as well as coaches. And so all of those people have to come back together. There's no way that you can keep them quarantined. So not only have the Vikings and the Titans closed their facilities, this actually affects 4 NFL teams when you look at it.
Yeah.
Because their upcoming opponents this week, if they can't clear enough COVID-19 players, then those games could potentially be delayed, Charlton, or even canceled.
Yeah.
So the NFL is just right now on the crux of what's going to happen throughout this season because there's no way of keeping players safe. As we've seen in college football, over 20 football games have been canceled in college football. If the NFL gets to the point, Charlton, where they have to cancel 3 or 4 or 5 games through the season, this could be horrific in the outcome of the season.
Yeah, they're not going to cancel this. They're making too much money to cancel Big C. They're going to treat it like CTE. They can always claim they did not know. But I believe it was about 8 total positive COVID-19 tests, 3 players, and then 5 staff. Now, Big C, remember I think it was just this week, or maybe last week, there were several head coaches that got fined, several, in the 6 figures because they didn't have a mask. I think John Gruden was one, Pete Carroll was one, and there were a couple others. I think the good old boy for the New Orleans Saints, and they were taking it lightly. Now, isn't this something? You have people taking it lightly. The Raiders even had someone coming to their locker room down at Allegiant Stadium, and they were not scanned for COVID. Now they have more staff testing positive than players. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this is just the interaction of people, Charlton. You're not going to be able to keep everybody safe. And I still go back to when the NFL had 77 false positive cases.
Yeah, right.
But the following week they came out with 5 positive cases.
Yeah.
So I don't think those 77 were false
you
cases,
think?
Charlton. It's just the NFL was not ready for that hit.
Yeah.
But as this season goes on, those hits are going to keep coming, and not just on the field. They're going to come from the COVID-19 testing.
Yeah, if you ever want to know if you're getting screwed, it's a double entendre, but don't get screwed without knowing you're being screwed. And these players got to realize when they get sick, it's not their owners getting sick. It's not the media getting sick. It's not the sports fans getting sick, Big C. When they get sick, at some point in time, you got to, when someone's screwing you, it's not a good feeling unless you want that to happen. And I'm being very serious. At some point in time, what do these players have to say or think about it when they know? And they got proof that the owners have been lying to them, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's evident when you don't see Jerry Jones down on the sideline. I mean, I hadn't seen him on the sideline all year. I didn't see him off the sideline for over 20 years when the Dallas Cowboys were playing games. So he understands the seriousness of this pandemic, that he's not going to put himself at unnecessary risk, but he's not concerned with the players.
Yeah, it's a shame. I really hope people can be safe. I want to do Big C's NFL top 10 power rankings. And especially after last night, I had to do some changing last night because I was saying Baltimore is going to show them good old boys from Kansas City, with the fans that boo for social justice. They booed. Think about this. The performance, the way Patrick Mahomes is playing, he got booed at home by fans in Kansas City, Missouri, because they said that Black Lives Matter, and the fan base, some of them didn't like it. But I want to go to Big C's NFL top 10 power rankings. I'm going to start from 10 down to 1. And then I just want to get your thoughts on it. I'm coming in. Number 10 would be the Arizona Cardinals, even though they had their wings clipped last week. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they had their wings clipped also, but they're still in second place in the NFC West. Kyler Murray threw 3 interceptions. I don't see him repeating that performance again. He has to stabilize himself a little more. That defense is going to pick up the tempo in Arizona. They were put in bad positions by that 3 interceptions from Kyler Murray.
Yeah, Kyler Murray. You're the Arizona Cardinals, not the Las Vegas Cardinals. Number 9, Big C's NFL power rankings. Number 9, the Chicago Bears from the Windy City. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Mitch Trubisky is now holding a clipboard. They brought in Nick Foles to be their starting quarterback. He threw 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns against the hapless Atlanta Falcons, Charlton, to keep the Bears unbeaten. But we got to find out how they're going to be when they lost one of their top offensive threats in Cohen. He tore up his knee, so it's, the running back is going to be a little short for the Bears, but they're moving into the top 10.
Yeah, it's a great thing that I just hope players will stay safe. I want to commend Big C's top 10 NFL power rankings. Number 8, I want to bring it to the Jedi Knight, Bill Belichick, and the New England Patriots. Big C, your thoughts?
When you think about Bill Belichick, and everybody was saying, is it Bill Belichick or is it Tom Brady? Bill Belichick had to replace 14 starters going into this
Yeah,
season.
amazing.
Yes, they lost that one game to Seattle, but there's no team in the NFL that had as much turnover team-wise of starters than the New England Patriots, and they still only lost one game that came down to the final play of the game.
Yeah, final play of the game and on the goal line, Big C. I'm going to bring in Big C's top 10 NFL power rankings. I want to go to Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry leading the NFL in rushing with the Tennessee Titans at number 7, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Ryan Tannehill, it shows how good a quarterback or maybe even how bad a coach that Adam Gase is in New York with the Jets. Ryan
Yeah.
Tannehill could not win with Adam Gase as a coach. And you look at the life that he's gotten since taking over the Tennessee Titans. They got rid of their former number 1 draft pick and Marcus Mariota. Tannehill took them to the AFC Finals last year and has them undefeated this season.
Yeah, that when you're undefeated, that means you're not getting screwed, Big C, if that makes any sense to you. Coming in at Big C's top 10 NFL power rankings, I was going to have them at number 1 until I got screwed last night, Big C. The Baltimore Ravens coming in at number 6, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you have to understand when you're talking about sports, you can't talk about it being a fan. You have to talk about it being objective. And when you look at the Baltimore Ravens, a one-dimensional team, they may run roughshod around a lot of teams in the NFL that don't have the dynamic quarterback that Kansas City has. But they will get back on stride. I don't see them losing more than 3 games this year.
Yeah.
One of the things that the Kansas City Chiefs did was lay down a blueprint on how you beat the Baltimore Ravens. But this is a team that cannot play from behind, and they suffered their first loss last night.
Yeah, and they get 4 wins every year because they play Cincinnati and Cleveland, and that tends to give them at least 4 wins, sometimes only 3, but 4. I want to come in Big C's top 10 NFL power rankings. And I know the Rams got screwed, but they're used to screwing people too when they went down to New Orleans. They got screwed in Buffalo. The Bills coming at Big C's number 5, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, what knocked you off your win streak with the Rams was that same mysterious call they had in New Orleans. But when you look at the Buffalo Bills at what they're doing, Charlton, Josh Allen has grown into the quarterback position in the NFL. I mean, everybody's touted about the strong arm that he's had, but his mobility has made the difference in that offense as well as Stephon Diggs. Darren Singletary's done a marvelous job of running the football, but this is a team that got up on an early lead on the Rams, and the defense kind of faltered late in the game, but Josh Allen and the offense were able to put together a game-winning drive to pull it out.
Yeah, he really did a good job doing his thing. You know, he led the Fireball Falcons to a Central Valley championship back in the day. He also led, I think it was Reedley College back in the day in junior college. Then he went to Wyoming. They didn't win a championship, but he got drafted to the NFL. Will he repeat what he did at Fireball High School this year? We shall see, at least in the AFC East. I want to come in Big C's top 4 power rankings, the final 4 for this week. You know, sometimes you need me, Joe Green, to give you his Coca-Cola, Big C. Have a Coke on the smile. The Steelers come in with the steel curtain at number 4, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, this is a team that you have to be impressed defensively with, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And right now, they're leading that division of those 4 teams. You talk about the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Bengals. Pittsburgh Steelers have gotten themselves a quarterback. Mike Tomlin has always been one of the best defensive coaches in the NFL. Now he has a quarterback that can get the ball to his receivers. When you think about the development of the young receivers that they have there to go along with Schuster, you know, and James Conner, the past 2 games, has rushed for 100 yards on the ground.
He's good.
The defense has always been lights out in Pittsburgh. That's their moniker. But now that they got a quarterback and Big Ben coming back and healthy, finding open receivers, they're going to raise havoc in that division.
Yeah, they're always the Steelers have always been a tough out from the days of Franco Harris and Rocky Blyer, and the Raiders still say the ball touched the ground when Franco picked it up after Frederick Fuqua and Jack Tatum, them good old boys. But it's all fair in love and war. Sometimes you just need a cheesesteak sandwich, Big C. Go to Discount Double Check Lambeau Field. The Green Bay Packers coming in at Big C's number 3 in the power rankings. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, Aaron Rodgers, I mean, as he told everybody at the start of the season, what's love got to do with it? And he still, I think, should have went into Matt LaFleur's office and dropped a half a dozen F-bombs on him and traded him. But Aaron Rodgers is playing with a mission. And, you know, where he is playing and what he has done with the Green Bay Packers, they have scored the most points in the first 3 games of the season that they've ever scored in Aaron Rodgers' career. So when you talk to the dynamics of a quarterback, Aaron Rodgers has all the tools that a Patrick Mahomes has. He can throw the ball from any launch point. he's mobile and can run with the ball. But the defense of the Packers is better than advertised. And that's been the difference. When you look at what they've done defensively to their opponents, they have the cornerback, they have two outstanding defensive ends. So the Packers are playing great team football.
Yeah, they're really good. Big C, I'm going to bring it to would you believe they say all life began on the African continent, Dr. Leaky Gregory. In the Seattle Seahawks, they have a black quarterback by the name of Russell Houdini Wilson. Would you believe he's the only quarterback in the history of the NFL to have 14 touchdown passes through the first 3 games? I'm bringing the Seattle Seahawks at number 2 on Big C's NFL Power Rankings. Big C, your thoughts?
Yeah, but I'm still trying to figure out what type of bird is a Seahawk. I haven't found that. Even when I Google, I can't figure that part out.
They're slippery, Big C. They're slippery.
Russell Wilson, this is just a pickup of what he did last year when you think about how successful he was in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They've let Russell eat. They've allowed Russell to throw the ball. Everybody questioned his ability to throw the ball for a long time.
Yeah.
But he always proved in the fourth quarter that he could. Now he's throwing the ball in the first quarter and throughout the game, and taking the pressure off of his legs. But his mobility and his candidness about the game and understanding what's going on. Seattle is going to need to play better defense. That could be their Achilles heel as the season goes on because they suffered so many injuries on that side of the ball. They also lost Carson, their top running back, for a couple of weeks in last Sunday's game. But Russell Wilson right now is playing head and shoulders above what he's ever done in his career.
And I want to bring you, that's very true. The Seahawk, I guess, is a slippery fish, Big C. He likes to cook, so maybe he's cooked some slippery fish back in the day. I want to bring you to number 1 in Big C's NFL Top 10 Power Rankings. And you got to give it to the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl 54 champions. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Mr. Mahomes and his gang, and like his mom texted in last night, don't call him Pat, call him Patrick.
Call him Patrick.
And so call him by his full name, by his mother's name that she gave him.
Yeah.
And that's what Mr. Mahomes does when he's out there playing football.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a nightmare for any head coach and defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Because you think that you've prepared yourself and your team for the game that week, but you can't prepare yourself for the way that he ad-libs during a contest.
Yeah.
There was a point in the game where, they had turned the ball over and had a 3-and-out, and Eric Bieniemy chewed some butt on the sideline. That team came back and responded to the adversity of Eric Bieniemy getting in their backside.
Yep.
And they showed what the fortitude of a championship team is because they came out and they took the ball right down the field against a great defense that the Ravens had.
Yeah.
But it looked like they were totally outmatched because there's no way you can script a defense against all the things that they can throw at you. And the Kansas City Chiefs are the best in the NFL at doing it.
Yeah, and next time Eric Bieniemy's chewing on some meat, make sure you chew on the Big C burger. It really tastes good. It's an exotic meat. I'm sure he'll love it. We're going to take what's called the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. And when we come back, I'm going to run down some baseball scores, and then I want to get into some more things about what's going on with football, and we'll be back in just a moment. All right, we are back from the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the number 1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps you can follow Big C Sports, and I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. Just briefly, Major League Baseball scores, the playoffs. Yeah, the playoffs. Playoffs? Talk about playoffs, Big C. They're already underway. The Houston, they have so many cameras for the Astros. I don't understand what they're doing with all those cameras, Big C. The Astros have unlikely Game 1 hero. I mean, thinking about it, Big C. The Astros 4, the Twins 1, and that's the final. The White Sox 4, the Oakland A's 1. The Blue Jays, think about this. The Tampa Bay Rays 3, the Blue Jays nothing. And I don't want to give out this game is still on the way, the Yankees in Cleveland. And Ohio has a lot of people in town paying attention to Potus and also our future president, Joe Biden, in my opinion. So baseball, we wish you nothing but the best, but I want to make sure we finish up on some good things in football because I really like the way things are going in football. You don't want to be screwed by bookies when you go down to Las Vegas. You don't want to be screwed by a bad call. But when it comes down to getting a fair deal, Big C, NFL by the numbers, would you believe When the number 2 comes up, Carson Wentz went through 2 interceptions in the Philadelphia Eagles in a 23-23 tie with the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday, making this his 3rd straight game with at least 2 picks. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, and everybody keeps saying that, Philadelphia has a lot of injuries and all that. You're injured mentally when your quarterback keeps throwing interceptions and having 3 consecutive games to open the season, and you've thrown at least 2 interceptions in each one of those, Charlton, and you're 0-3 as a team. You're scratching your head as an organization and say, where do we go from here? Because we don't want to destroy Carson Wentz in totality.
Yeah.
And if they bench him, who knows where he would be mentally?
Yeah, if they do it for, I used to watch big-time wrestling, they would always tap out so the team could come in. Baseballs have relief pitchers. They'll bring in a different pitcher because they want to help the team more than the person. NFL by the numbers. Think about the number 7. You don't want to go down to Las Vegas unless you got 7 on your mind, especially 3 in a row. After pitching in 2 scores on the ground in a 36-20 win over the Las Vegas Raiders on Sunday, New England Patriots now have 7 rushing touchdowns, Big C, on the season. Would you believe that's the most in the NFL through 3 games? Your thoughts?
Well, this is a team with a history of not knowing how to run the football.
Yep.
It's always been a pass-happy team. But with the addition of Cam Newton in the backfield and his legs also being able to run the ball in for touchdowns, they rushed for over 250 yards last week's victory, Charlton, but they've become a dynamic rushing team with the addition of Cam Newton.
Yeah, they really are. When you run the ball, you tend to win games, and I still look for the Patriots to win the AFC East. Also by the numbers, I know you're a numbers guy, Big C. The number 12, Tennessee Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill edged out a 31-30 win over the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday. He's now 12-4 in his last 16 starts, including the playoffs. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, here's a guy that everybody had given up on, mainly the Miami Dolphins. But he came to the Titans, and think about where they ended their season last year, Charlton, in the AFC Championship game. But they didn't let that slow them down, get knocked off by the eventual world champion Kansas City Chiefs. Ryan Tannehill got a big offseason contract,
Yep.
and he picked up where he started off last year when he replaced Marcus Mariota, winning the first 3 games of the 2020 season.
Yeah, it's amazing when you go by the numbers, and you're a numbers guy. I know sometime when you send out those mason jars for whatever you guys use mason jars for, you always count, and they better have the same number when they arrive as when they left, if that makes sense to you. By the numbers, 14, Seattle Seahawks quarterback Russell Houdini Wilson tossed 5 more touchdown passes on Sunday in a 38-31 win over the Dallas Cowboys. How about them Cowboys, Big C? Raising the season total 14 touchdowns through only 3 games, Big C. Your thoughts?
And Charlton, that total should be 15 if not for a lackadaisical DK Metcalf who lost the ball at the 1-yard line. Russell Wilson has just been dynamic this year. He's never gotten an MVP vote in his entire career, but I think he's already secured a couple thus far. And he is the engine that drives the Seattle Seahawks. And they're going to go as far as Russell's arm takes them this year.
Yeah, they really. If he were white, do you think he would have had it? He has been to 2 Super Bowls. Do you think he would have gotten at least one MVP? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, he might have, Charlton. I mean, when you think about how successful he's been, not many quarterbacks in the NFL can boast to go into back-to-back Super Bowls.
Nope.
But he did that without ever getting an MVP vote.
Yeah, it's amazing. By the number 16, there was a movie that I watched when I was a teenager called 16 Candles, Big C. The Atlanta Falcons held a 16-point fourth-quarter lead over the Chicago Bears. Eventually, they lost by the score 30-26. They are now the first team in NFL history to lose back-to-back games despite leading by 15 points in the fourth quarter of each game, and a quarterback with a $155 million contract. Big C, your thoughts?
That's on the tail of gave up the largest deficit in Super Bowl history also with that same quarterback on the team. What I see with Matt Ryan as the quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons is that you don't have a quarterback with any mobility. You know where he's going to be in the pocket, but he seems to be selfish. When you're running the game and dominating the run game with Smith and Gurley, and you got a lead, and you go away from that because you think that somebody on your own team is outplaying you. What I put Matt Ryan in is the same field that I put Baker Mayfield in, is that you got to start pointing fingers at the quarterback and stop blaming it on the defense when you don't take the time off the clock.
Yeah, the late coach John McKay at USC He had Pat Hayden turning around to Sam Bam Cunningham. They said, McKay, why do you run the ball so much? He said it's not heavy. Maybe some of these multi-million-dollar quarterbacks can figure that out too. By the numbers, 80 is a good number, Big C. 80. I think about Flash with Jerry Rice, but 80, Big C. The 80s were also a good time in this country. People partied hard in the 80s. But in his third game with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a 28-10 win over the Denver Broncos, who was always good in the 1980s, quarterback Tom Brady finally found wide receiver Chris Godwin for a touchdown. Godwin is his 80th player to catch a touchdown pass from Tom Brady, extending an all-time NFL record. Big C, your thoughts?
And you think about how dynamic Tom Brady has been throughout his career and the number of receivers that have caught touchdowns from him. He's spreaded the wealth since he's been in New England. So, you know, he's incorporated all of those weapons that he has offensively, and they're in first place now in the Southern Division of the NFC.
Yeah, I think Michael Jackson, Billie Jean came out and beat it, came out in the 80s also, and Tom Brady's beating it with the number 80. 80 different players. That means Tom Brady looks left and right before he throws the ball. Big C, your thoughts?
That means that everybody gets a Christmas card.
Everybody gets a Christmas card, maybe a Rolex watch. By the numbers, I know you love the numbers, Big C. 400. Indianapolis Colts quarterback Phillip Rivers threw his 400th career touchdown pass in a 36-7 win over the Jets on Sunday. Rivers is only the sixth NFL quarterback in NFL history to hit the 400 touchdown mark. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that feat is always easily accomplished when you're playing against a JV team in the NFL, and that's what the Jets represent. But Phillip Rivers, even though he's had trouble with the interception over the last couple of years, Charlton, he's still able to find the end zone with his own teammates. Yeah,
it is amazing. Also, by the numbers, you can think about 2,114, Cleveland with a 34-20 win over the Washington football team. I'm going to call them the Washington Red Tails on Sunday. The Browns are above 500 for the first time in 2,114 days, going back to December 14, 2014. Go ahead and celebrate. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this is for Cleveland, as LeBron would say. So, I mean, that's a long, long time suffering when you're a Browns fan, that you got to go all the way back to 2014 since you've been over 500 as a football organization. But kudos to the Browns. Maybe they'll keep running the ball with Chubbs and Hunt in the backfield and just make Baker Mayfield hand it off.
Yeah, might have handed it off. In fact, there's rumors that Potus is in Cleveland tonight with Joe Biden, and he called Cleveland an asshole country. Doesn't he know Cleveland's a city in the state of Ohio? But it's all fair enough work. They see by the numbers. The number two, the NFL has two running backs with over 300 yards rushing through 3 games. Derrick Henry, 319 yards. The ball's not heavy, averaging 3.9 yards per carry, Big C. And then Aaron Jones, 303 yards, 6.1 yards per rush. The ball's not heavy, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it's been a while since a running back averaged 100 yards a game for an entire NFL season. But one of the things that it shows for this, Charlton, that both of these teams are 3-0 with their running backs averaging 100 yards on the ground. But both of their quarterbacks have played dynamic also when you think about Tannehill and Rodgers. But both of these teams are leading their division. Yeah,
they really are, Big C. You know, Joe Namath had a commercial back in the day. He would smack himself and say, "Thanks, I needed that." I think it was Aquavelva. The New York Jets. Think about that. If they lose to the Philadelphia Eagles this weekend, maybe they should consider sitting Sam Darnold. So it would give them some trade value for him next season. Play your backup, lose the rest of the season. You're probably going to lose anyway. Hire Eric Bieniemy away from Kansas City as your next head coach, and then draft Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence because they're similar in the way that Patrick Mahomes plays. Big C, your thoughts?
I mean, that wouldn't be a bad move when you look at it in totality. I mean, we haven't seen any growth from Sam Darnold since he's been in the NFL. He had 2 pick sixes on Sunday against the Indianapolis Colts. I don't know if he couldn't tell the difference between the white jersey and the blue jersey. So maybe he needs to get his eyes or whatever. But Adam Gates is not a quarterback that's going to get the Jets to, they're going to play the Denver Broncos, I believe, Thursday night. The Denver Broncos are going to play a rookie free agent quarterback, Brett Rippon.
Yeah.
And if he goes out and beats Sam Darnold, who was the 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft out of USC, this is Boise State versus USC, then there's no reason to continue to play Sam Darnold over the season. You can't blame the rest of the players for the Jets. You fire Gates, you bench Darnold. At least you have somebody that you can trade later on and say, hey, the guy's not totally damaged. We sit him down so he wouldn't be shell-shocked. You can bring him into your system and teach him something different.
Yeah.
But Justin Fields is sitting up there, Charlton. I would draft Justin Fields because he's so dynamic in what he does. People talk about Trevor Lawrence. He's a great thrower, but his legs are not as good as Justin Fields, and that's what you need now going forth in the NFL. But the Jets need a marquee player in that city, as well as the Giants. So both of those teams should be considering themselves. They may be the worst two teams in the NFL. Will they draft quarterbacks with their first overall pick?
Big C, that you know what makes so much sense with Eric Bieniemy, and you look at Kansas City, how they've won. They really could be going on working on 3 Super Bowls in a row if they weren't robbed by New England at their home stadium. You know, that fake roughing the passer call that was given on Brady. And if they bring in a mobile quarterback in New York City, could you imagine the last time that the East Coast had a mobile quarterback, at least a couple of them in that area, you had Donovan McNabb for the Eagles, and then you have Michael Vick that played in Atlanta. They were mobile. They were always in the playoffs, and New York needs that. They got to get rid of that stand in the pocket, can't run quarterback looking for the big white hope coming back in the name.
Michael Vick also played with the New York Jets in the latter part of his career before he went to the Steelers. But he was there with the Jets, and so there's been mobile quarterbacks there. And Randall Cunningham was in Philadelphia also. Vick was also in Philadelphia. So they've had some mobile quarterbacks there in the East.
Yeah, but they don't like guys that can get around and become multidimensional, Big C, in this all fair and love and war. Big C Sports wants to be the new sexy. We want to be clever. We want to be engaging. We want to be bold. We want to be thoughtful. But for the most part, we really want to be honest. Just like tonight's debate, you can fact-check anything we say. Donald Trump does not want you to fact-check that he doesn't pay taxes, and he said that COVID-19 was a Democratic hoax as over 205,000 Americans have lost their lives. He doesn't pay taxes. He has a lot of crooked friends, and like I was told, you know, screw me once, shame on you. Screw me twice, it better be something that I want, Big C. Don't let people fool you. You got to know when you're being screwed. Just Google everything that people say. That's what I love about Big C Sports. I want to tell you something, in my opinion. It's not, I don't want to ignore good things. I feel great. Today is a great day. I just love sports, politics. I feel healthy. The smoke is not as bad in California, Big C. We could use some rain, though. But college football, you know, we just talked about the NFL positive COVID-19 test with the Tennessee Titans and Minnesota Vikings. College football, Arkansas State has been forced to postpone its last 2 games against Central Arkansas and Tulsa, down in the South, Big C, due to COVID-19 outbreaks and contract tracing. Think about this. If you count the Red Wolves coach Blake Anderson among those in the program who test positive for COVID-19, we told you there's about 1,600 kids, high school kids in Utah that are also in quarantine over COVID-19. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, it comes down to whoever wants to be honest about the testing.
Yeah.
You can come out with any program in the United States and say we have positive, or you can just wash it under the rug, as many people have done, Charlton. You don't always want to disclose the number of tests that you have that come back positive. But there are still a few programs out there that want to be above board and be honest with the program as well as the students and the university.
Yeah.
And they're not going to hide the results of the test. It's not all about money to them.
It's not always about money, but it is always about money to the teams and the universities that are playing football, Big C. College football. I remember watching Notre Dame when Anthony Davis in the Coliseum, I think USC was down 28-0. They came back and won, I think, 55-28. John McKay was coaching the Trojans, and that's when I got into Notre Dame football, Big C. But Notre Dame sent more players into isolation after the program has suspended all football activities due to COVID-19 outbreak. The Fighting Irish announced Monday that 18 players, Big C, have tested positive in its latest round of COVID-19 testing. Now that same great program has 25 players in isolation, another 14 players in quarantine based on contact tracing. Big C, your thoughts?
And you got to realize this is the second wave of COVID-19 that has gone through the University of Notre Dame's football program.
Yeah.
So when will it end? I mean, at some point at Notre Dame, you got to sit up and say, hey, we can't continue to put these players at risk, because what you have to look at, even in testing positive for COVID-19, Charlton, is the heart muscle been damaged by a lot of these athletes. And when you've had your second wave of COVID-19 and you can't keep these players separated, they talk about, we'll quarantine them. But there's a thing called a locker room that all the players go into at the same time, before the game, halftime, and after the game. So there's no social distancing in the locker room. And I know some of these universities have these cavernous locker rooms now, Charlton, with these updated stadiums. But you're still in a closed-air environment with all of these players breathing hard, sweating, coughing, and sneezing. There's no way that you can keep them separated or protected from each other.
Yeah, I remember when I played football in high school and college, and then being in many NFL locker rooms, when guys get in the showers, there's no separate shower. There's not like a separate stall like when you're in a restroom you may have at a bathroom in a restaurant. You have separate stalls where you're in there by yourself. Now, all these players are taking showers about maybe 3 feet away from each other. There's no social distancing. I know that it's an airborne virus, and I think right now, Big C, is just the tip of the iceberg, because I'll never forget what Coach Orgeron said down at LSU. Half of the team at LSU had COVID-19. It's amazing they just got beat down by Mississippi State, and it seemed like they didn't have the energy. I mean, I'm seeing something's going on they're not telling us about. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, their top cornerback ended up in the hospital the night before the game, Charlton Singletary, down at LSU. And, we saw C.J. Costello have a record day of passing the football with 623 yards. I mean, these coaches are not going to be honest. They're in it for their salaries. They're giving millions of dollars in salaries.
Yeah.
They're trying to make millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars for the universities also.
Yeah.
Because these broadcast networks, you can blame the universities, you can blame the coaches, but they're not the ones that are totally culpable in this. These are the broadcast networks.
Yeah.
Because they're dying for content to put on the air. And so they're only playing football because the broadcast networks are paying them revenue to put these athletes at risk.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the broadcast of these games, they have a shield between these broadcasters. Matter of fact, I saw a game the other day where the broadcasters were sitting at home watching the game on television and broadcasting the game between Central Florida and East Carolina.
Yeah.
And so they didn't even put the broadcasters at risk by bringing them to the stadium. They let them do the game from home with the big screen television.
Yeah.
So nobody's being put at risk other than the student athlete. Everybody else is safeguarding themselves against COVID-19, but they're saying the athletes can be sacrificial lambs.
Yeah, they're sacrificial lambs. And Big C, we were doing it before COVID-19. We're 3,000 miles away. Now everybody's copying. Hey, we don't have to be in the same studio to do a show. Big C Sports are doing it. They don't do it the way we do. But isn't that amazing how God led us to the promised land first? I want to bring up something because it's important to me. I just want to make sure, because I know there's more to come that they haven't told us about, but I want to give a kudos to Patrick Mahomes, throwing for just 75 yards against the Baltimore Ravens on Monday. Patrick Mahomes became the fastest player in NFL history, Big C, to reach 10,000 career yards in passing. He's still a young man. He did it, Big C, and so in his 34th game of his career, which is just 2 games faster than Hall of Famer Kurt Warner, who previously held the record as he moved past the milestone in 36 games. So not only is Patrick Mahomes, right now he is the face of the NFL, but he's earned the money and he's done what he's done in 2 games sooner than the great Hall of Famer Kurt Warner. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, and I would beg to say that there's a lot of defensive coordinators and defensive backs that have developed a drinking problem in trying to defend Mr. Mahomes in those 10,000 yards that he's passed for. But there's been a lot of people that have just been overly excited also in the offensive output that he's had in his career. And you think about where he is, and no one knows what the length of his career is going to be.
No.
But if he can stay healthy throughout this contract that he has signed with the Kansas City Chiefs, he will go down most likely as the greatest quarterback to ever play in the NFL. He may not have all the yardage records, not have the touchdown record.
Yeah.
But by the time that this contract is up, if he continues to play, if he plays through it and stays healthy, he'll have the greatest numbers in the history of the NFL over a 12-year career.
Yeah, he's dynamic, and I was saying that Jackson would outperform him, and And obviously you had some friends in Las Vegas that tried to make me look bad, but I'll give it to you in that one. We'll see you guys. I'll be back. The great Arnold Schwarzenegger said they'll play again sometime, maybe in the playoffs. Big C, I don't know if you've ever been to Russia, but Vladimir Putin, you know, he loves Russia because he's an autocrat. That means he has totalitarian power that Donald Trump wants to look like. Track and field in Russia. Think about this. They've been given 5 more months to fix their doping problem. Doping athletes, as Potus is suing to end the Affordable Care Act in America to help people stay healthy and live longer, called Obamacare. How is it that Russia, they acknowledge doping, they've been punished for doping, and now they're given 5 more months to clear up their doping allegations to their athletes?
Well, I mean, this is a history of Russia. I go back to the 72 Olympics in Munich.
Yeah.
You know, when the Russians were first accused of doping on the world scene. And, you know, athletes would win medals for Russia and you would never see them again, especially a lot of female athletes that, you know, were muscularly built,
yeah.
whether they were in running the track events or doing the field events.
Yeah.
Russia's always had a history of this on the world stage. This is nothing new. They're not going to clean up what they do. Just if you catch them, they bring in another athlete that you have to catch.
Yeah, and then if the athlete doesn't win, he has to hope they don't catch him. If that makes sense to you, Big C. Big C, I know you like horses. You know, if you like horses, it's all fine. I remember the movie Scarface. Anthony Montana said, "You want a horse? We'll get you a horse," because, you know, people eat all kind of animals, Big C. Horse racing. And I'm so serious about this. We have a few more minutes left. Horse racing. You know, a lot of Americans are starving right now. They can't get the country to extend their paid benefits. The United States House of Representatives, they ban doping horses to ensure the safety of racehorses, all while POTUS is suing to end the Affordable Care Act for the dumb people that still want to vote for him, Big C. Why are horses more important than people, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, it all depends on whether you're in the United States or Europe. That's kind of pissed the people in Europe off because horse meat is a delicacy over there, and they enjoy it. The more horses that died, the more beef they had on the count.
Yeah, that's true. And then you think about that as people are going for the vote. I just tell people, no matter what you do, just please stay informed. Before we close out in the next 4 minutes, Big C, college football rankings, number 1 is Clemson. It's really not even fair because everybody's not involved yet, especially the Pac-12 yet. Clemson, number 1, Alabama, number 2, Florida coming in number 3, Georgia at number 4, Notre Dame at number 5, but they're having all kind of issues with health. Ohio State number 6, Auburn number 7, Miami, Florida number 8, Texas number 9, and then Penn State coming in at number 10. But it really doesn't matter, Big C, because they have more health issues than they're willing to tell us, Big C. Your thoughts?
I mean, rankings mean nothing in college football. They meant nothing during normalcy. They mean even less now because no one knows who's going to play the maximum amount of games this year. You're going to have some teams potentially playing 10.
Yeah.
So how do you rate teams when it comes down to that?
Yeah, you can't really do it. And I know everybody has. Tonight is the debate. It's already underway. They got into it at 6 o'clock p.m. in the Pacific Standard Time, 9 o'clock p.m. East Coast time. I'm just asking people to vote. I'm saying vote for Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, someone who's decent. Joe Biden actually showed that he paid his federal income tax, and it was a lot more than $750, Big C. Give me your feeling on tonight. They're not gonna change any minds. Some people like being screwed. Some people don't know when they're being screwed, Big C. But if someone's gonna screw you, at least get permission. Donald Trump has screwed the United States of America with COVID-19. People are out of work. He keeps lying all the time. And people vote for who you want to vote for. But don't vote for somebody who screws you. Every time over 200,000 people died because he screwed people. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, I think this debate comes down to staying on task, being honest, if you're Joe Biden. Is that talk about where America's gone wrong over the last 4 years and how you look to correct it in the next 4 years. You have to stay on task. You can't get into that personal beat-down battle in this debate, and that's what Donald Trump wants to take it. He wants to make it personal. Donald Trump is not going to address the issues because he knows that he's been a failure on the issues. He will talk about the stock market.
Yeah.
That's all he will talk about, and then he will attack Joe Biden's son. Those are the things he'll talk about. He won't talk about him paying off a porn star. He won't talk about that you can't write off your house on your income tax return any longer. He won't talk about he didn't pay federal income tax.
No.
He won't talk about the over 205,000 Americans that have died from COVID-19. He won't talk about anything that he has done to hurt America. He's only going to attack Joe Biden. He's going to say that Joe Biden wants anarchy in America. He wants to get rid of the police. He wants to get rid of the Bible. He wants to get rid of the guns. Well, if you get rid of the guns in America, Charlton, then we won't have people dying in the streets. That's number one when it comes to the guns. But he won't talk about that he wants to get rid of health care for 100 million Americans.
I know.
Donald Trump won't address those issues.
Yeah.
But you have to talk about the issues that mean something to Americans, that you're going to keep their health care. You won't let it be abolished. And if it's abolished under Donald Trump, that you will just put in a new, Affordable Care Act. You will renew the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do if you're Joe Biden.
Yeah. It's all fair and love and war. I'm glad that people keep reading, and keep staying informed. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, we got two NFL coaches this week sleeping kind of uneasily. That's Dan Quinn down in Atlanta and Anna Gates in New York.
Yeah.
Neither one of those coaches can afford a loss if they expect to stay employed.
Yeah, they got to stay employed.
Our frontline healthcare workers who work under every condition you can imagine in America, and they work to keep America safe and healthy. Our nurses, our doctors, our first responders, we admire what you do every day.
We admire what you do every day. Make sure you vote. Make sure you vote, and make sure you keep hope alive every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. You can follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and the good old boys down south. As we always tell you, that's never, ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.